Jefferson curls are an exercise that have been gaining a lot of popularity lately, and for really good reasons. They offer a ton of benefits, including improved lower back and hamstring strength, improved flexibility of the low back, hamstring flexibility, and it can help you build a resilient, robust spine that can kind of help to reduce your injury risk while lifting. However, for a lot of people, this is a completely new type of exercise for them. So the last thing that you want to do is just jump right into it very aggressively and increase the risk of injury if this is something that you haven't trained for before. So today I'm going to show you a Jefferson curl progression that you can utilize to start working your way into Jefferson curls so that you can do the full movement while having as minimal risk of injury as possible. But first, if you want to learn more about pain, lifting, and injuries, then make sure to subscribe to my channel for future videos. Most lifters are probably totally fine doing this movement in a loaded or resisted manner right from the get-go, as long as they're modifying range of motion, loading, and tempo to what they can currently handle. However, if you've never done any direct spine flexion type training before, and this is something that you're a little bit more apprehensive of, then first we're going to start with unloaded movement, just body weight in different positions to help you build confidence and tolerance of your back so that we can work to those more advanced progressions later. I'll often have my clients start with just a simple cat-camel in which you're on all fours, and the goal of this motion is just to round your spine as much as possible within comfort. To develop some confidence and tolerance to this position, I often have my clients do anywhere between 3 to 10 second holds in that flex position just to develop more time in that position. From here, we can start to increase the challenge or the demand of this exercise a little bit by simply adding a band. All you do is take a longer loop band, thread one hand through it, place it across your back, and then thread your other hand through it, and place both hands on the ground. So now as you move into that flex position, you have a little bit of resistance from the band itself. You can either do relatively slow controlled reps, or if you want to, you can do fewer reps per set, but hold each of them for about 3 to 5 seconds. Once you've spent a little bit of time doing either the regular cat-camel or the banded cat-camel, and you're feeling a little bit more confident in your back, then we can progress to a seated Jefferson curl. To do this, all you do is sit on a bench or a box or something else that's at relatively hip height, and then have your feet a little bit farther apart than hip width just to give yourself some space to move through. Have your hands in front of you, and then slowly round your spine from the very top of your neck all the way down to your low back. Try and move one segment at a time until you go either as far as you're comfortable going or until your hands hit the floor. From here, simply reverse the motion by trying to straighten your spine one segment at a time until you're all the way back up in the starting position. I often like to have my clients do slower tempo reps where they're going down with a 3 to 5 second eccentric, possibly doing a pause at the bottom, and then coming up with a 3 to 5 concentric as well. This slow controlled motion allows us to 1, limit loading, but 2, also develop some confidence while moving the spine in these possibly newer positions or ranges of motion for you. Once you're comfortable doing the seated Jefferson curl with just your body weight, we can now start to add a little bit of load through either using a kettlebell in your hands or a dumbbell in your hands. I recommend most of my clients to start pretty light, anywhere between 5 and 10 pounds, depending upon their own body weight, what their training history looks like, and how confident they feel in their backs. A kettlebell is usually going to limit the range of motion a little bit more because it's a longer implement, whereas with a dumbbell, you can actually increase the range of motion a little bit if you hold it by the handle itself in an orientation which is parallel to the floor. For most of my clients, I typically recommend progressively loading the seated Jefferson curl over the span of a couple weeks until they're really confident in their backs and able to handle at least 20 to 30 pounds or so in this variation. Once you start to add a decent amount of weight to the seated Jefferson curl, we can then progress on to more standing variations to increase the demand of this exercise on the posterior chain. I'll often have my clients start with a band-resisted Jefferson curl where they're standing with a band attached to a squat rack or some other implement above their head. They hold the band in their hands with their elbows locked out, and they're actually using their abs and pushing down so that they're trying to get the band towards the floor. Because the band is pulling up, this is going to make the abs work quite a bit harder, but it's going to reduce the demand on the low back since the band would help pull you back up from the very bottom. I like using this as just a way to start getting people used to flexing in the standing position, and then once they become comfortable with that, then we can start going to unassisted variations next. By now, you've spent probably a good bit of time doing some actual spine flexion movement, so once you feel really confident with the band-resisted variation in standing, we can now start to actually load the standing Jefferson curl. For most of my clients, I recommend a partial range of motion standing Jefferson curl with a kettlebell. I have most of my clients use either a box or a stack of plates that are set just below knee level or so, and using a kettlebell or a dumbbell going down to the very bottom of the motion, tapping that object, and then coming back up. The goal here is to use a box height or a stack of plate height that allows you to start moving into flexion, but in a lot less range of motion than if you were just to go from the floor itself. From here, you can slowly increase the range of motion of this movement by either using smaller boxes or by taking away plates over time until you're able to do just a full Jefferson curl with the object that you're holding touching the ground. Once you feel really confident doing a full standing Jefferson curl with the object touching the ground, if your flexibility allows for it, now you're ready to start actually progressively loading this full standing variation. The same rules apply for progressing this exercise as any other exercise. How much you're able to progress week to week or month to month is going to be very dependent upon you and your training history. But what we really want to do is try to avoid really large spikes in training load, so like large increases in volume or weight that you're lifting, because that's what ultimately is likely going to increase your risk of injury. Once you're able to handle pretty heavy weight for your body size and your strength levels, then you can progress to more advanced variations such as Zercher Jefferson curls, deficit Jefferson curls, and Jefferson curls with rotation. All of these will increase the demand of the overall exercise, but they also all have their own unique demands as well. In a future video, I'm actually going to cover a bunch of different variations of Jefferson curls, what their pros and cons are, and how you can best utilize them in a program. So now's the time to start progressing towards your first Jefferson curl and making your back as strong as you possibly can.